Hey, I'm Eric O'Keefe with FitnessBusinessInterviews.com, and I am happy to have Forrest Walden here now. Forrest is one of the most successful, under-the-radar fitness business pros that I know. He's owned, operated, managed more of his own businesses and franchises than anybody else out there, and he's had major success very, very quickly. So it was really important for me to get him to come on here and share all his business tips and advice so that way you guys can help build your businesses faster too. So Forrest, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, so you have been just totally kicking butt. I mean, you got so many things going on, opening facilities left and right. Let's back it up. Let's find out how you got started and got into the industry.
All right, I have a pretty typical story. Went to college, studied exercise science. I was a cheerleader at my university, Auburn University, War Eagle, and just loved exercise, loved working out, was pretty active in natural bodybuilding competitions in college, which led to a lot of people asking me, hey man, how do you stay in shape? Which led to free personal training in college because I didn't know people made careers of it back then. I just did it because I loved it. Got out of school, and it was the only thing I wanted to do. I really liked it, and so ended up managing a gym. Figured out real quickly that I didn't like the general membership model, and I felt like I was selling something that just happened to be fitness. All the emphasis was on sales, contracts, renewals, the whole 9 yards. And so I started personal training before work and after work, and that's really what I loved. And I'm like, how do I make a future doing this? And so I quit the management job, stayed at the gym, started training full-time. Real quickly was up to about 45 one-hour sessions a week, and I was newly married, and I said, well, my wife's a nurse. She works 12-hour shifts. I'm gone in the morning, I'm gone in the evening, the whole typical personal trainer lifestyle. And I thought, man, I don't know if there's a long-term future in this the way I'm going. And so I decided I wanted to open my own business. Didn't know a thing about business. To be honest, I had no interest in business. I was a trainer. That's all I talked about, studied, all I worried about, thought about, designing programs, etc. And came across some Fitness Together literature. This is back in 2000. Ended up flying out to Colorado. Didn't know anybody was franchising personal training at that time, and opened I know the first in the Southeast. I think I was somewhere at 14 or 15 in the nation when I opened in June of 2001. And opened that with a partner, Aaron Crocker, and we opened 6 Fitness Together stores within about 3 years, and then obtained the rights to 3 states in the Southeast, Alabama, Florida, and North Carolina, and really grew that over the last 5 years or so. So that was kind of the beginning story.
Okay, so in about 2 minutes you covered about 10 years there. So we're going to...
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We're going to break it down a little bit so that we can get some of the detail out of it.
Sure.
But I wanted to know, you were in school, you were studying exercise science. Is that what you always knew what you wanted to do, was just to go right after that?
It's funny. I tell people I was one of those rare people who never changed their major. I mean, there was just nothing else I was excited about. And I never could answer to my parents or anybody else what I was going to do with it.
Right.
And, the professors were hilarious because like, oh, there's so much you can do with this degree. And I said, like what? Oh, you can do corporate wellness. You can do hospital wellness. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Well, there's so much you can do. Like no one would tell me what you could do. And so, personal training was a godsend for me.
Okay, now did you start doing that when you were in college? You said you were training people for free. So were you actually getting paid for it? Did you start working for anybody when you were in school?
Well, I got paid by the gym to be kind of the front desk guy cleaning the equipment. But what I was really doing was free training. So, no, I wasn't getting paid by the clients. I was helping friends out.
Okay, and then once you got out of school, what was the first thing you did looking for a job or trainer?
I interned with a physical therapy clinic. And I still thought I might want to go to physical therapy school. That internship sold me on the fact that I didn't want to go to physical therapy school. And that clinic actually bought a gym and moved the clinic inside the gym. They shifted me over to the fitness side. And so that's when I started managing the gym and then moving into personal training like I talked about.
Okay, now, how long were you there for doing that?
Probably about 2 years total. A year in management, probably a year and a half of full-time training.
Okay, so when they brought the physical therapy, or the practice brought in the gym into it, did they have any clue about how to manage or how to run any of that?
Zero.
Okay, and you didn't have any experience either with it, so...
No, I remember going to a Thomas Plummer seminar real early on going, I don't know anything. So it was a complete learning experience.
Okay, so what were some of the things that you did early on, like that helped you, start managing it and making it more efficient for the facility there?
I had such limited resources. The investors we were working with, their focus was on the physical therapy, and we really had no marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
Anything I had to just deal with referrals and anything I could manage internally, promotions and things. And it was very limited success because most of my focus was on growing my personal training business when I figured out that's what I wanted to do. So, and then with my personal training business, my own one-on-one, it was all referral
Mm-hmm.
and just building a network and building up a group of customers that eventually came with me to my first studio.
Did you start that business while you were in the physical therapy center using their facility to train?
No, well, no, but I took all the clients that I had with me. That actually the gym ended up closing, and they let me stay after it closed about another month until my studio got open.
Okay, so them closing basically forced you to do your own thing.
Yes, but it was all part of my timeline. I knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I better get something open.
All right, so that you knew that it was coming, and you were able to bring those clients with you. Was there anything that you started to do outside of there to try and find more clients, or were you just focused on getting the ones that you had, the physical therapy place, and bringing them with you?
Yeah, focused on having the ones that I had, getting them to transfer over, and then when I knew I had an opening date for my new business, that's really when I started getting into the world of, oh my gosh, I own a business now, which means I'm a marketer of the thing instead of a doer of the thing.
Right.
And so that's when I started learning about marketing. And back then, I mean, for me, it was sending out glossy, oversized postcards was about the most sophisticated thing I knew back then, which we've come a long way, but that was the start.
Were you in your own place, or did you start out looking into the Fitness Together franchise?
My first studio was the Fitness Together franchise, which was June of 2001.
Okay.
And that's when we started our timeline. Just about every 6 months, we were opening another location.
And why did you choose Fitness Together?
At the time, I was 23 years old.
Okay.
And like I said, I had no business experience and really wanted I wanted a turnkey system. I had so many questions,
Yeah.
Do I lease? Do I own? Do I have a membership model? Do I just do personal training? There were so many unknowns that it was nice to talk to someone who had been there and done that and had, a template to follow.
Right.
And I always felt like I could execute a template. I'm not the best creator. I like to have a template to follow, or at least, especially early on with limited experience. So it was a good fit for me.
Okay, and so you basically were opening them up every 6 months. So in
That's
your
right.
first facility, you came in, you had clients built in, which was good. But what else were you doing to start bringing people into that, to really start building it up?
Yeah, back then, like I said, I was just learning the whole marketing world, and I was following the model I was given, which at that time was pretty much limited to buying a radius, a list of households that make a certain demographic profile, sending them out. Basically, glossy, oversized postcards was what we mainly relied on. And it wasn't a huge return for us. Most of our growth was through over-delivery, a great product, and referrals, at least early on.
Okay, so what were you doing with those clients early on so that they were referring everybody to you?
Well, it was a new concept for the area. It was private room training, which is Fitness Together's model, obviously. Personal training as an industry was very much at its infantile stage in Birmingham. There was very few studios doing it. And we had a good reputation. Aaron, my partner and I that I started with, we both brought about 20 clients. So it didn't hurt to have 40 clients off the bat and then getting referrals from them, hiring staff, developing staff, and really just focusing on, when you come in here, it's 45 minutes, it's private, your time, and that was unique, and it was a good selling point.
Okay, now you had all those clients coming in, but I'm curious to know, because I'm not familiar with the area, so can you describe the demographic and what your area is like?
Yeah, people are always surprised when they come here because they think Alabama.
Yeah.
You guys got the internet. I mean, what's going on down there? But it's more progressive than you think. And we've got about, if you take the whole over the mountain suburban populations, it's just under 1 million. So it's a pretty large market, but certainly not a big city. It's a little big city.
So you feel that at least you being one of the earlier people in there with the personal training things that probably had a big deal in helping you be successful for the first location?
Yeah, it definitely did. And as you look back to the timeline of training, one-on-one was really just getting popular, and I felt like what we had to overcome early on was selling people on the fact that normal people hired personal trainers, not movie stars, not the super rich. Like, a personal trainer was just as provided just as much utility for the average person as an accountant or a dentist or any other professional that they hired. I don't feel that way anymore at all. But back, 2001, 2000, that was kind of the perception we were trying to overcome.
Do you remember what some of the things that you did to overcome that perception?
I wouldn't have called it this then, but it was social proof. It was testimonials. It was really trying to highlight the average guy and girl in the Birmingham market, make celebrities out of them, and leverage their stories of even the ones like, I never thought I'd be using a personal trainer, but look at all these benefits, and it's more affordable than I thought, and just trying to overcome that perception.
Now, how did you know how to do that? Like, if you didn't have any experience or anything, was it just something you thought would be cool to help people, or were you getting some help somewhere from the franchise saying, hey, you might want to do this?
Well, it was an interesting evolution. Way back in time, I ran into a guy named Eric Ruth. Yeah. Obviously, you know that name, and he wrote a direct mail series piece for me, and it was direct response, and it was different than anything we had done, any postcards, anything like that. And we ran it. It was successful for us, and it was so different that I was like, man, what's going on here? What are the elements behind this? And started studying direct response marketing, and to this day, I was at the Super Conference, Dan Kennedy, in April, and just went to Ryan Lee's thing where I met you. And so the more and more I started studying direct response marketing, and Jay Abraham and Dan Kennedy and Glazer and all of them, the more I started realizing and understanding, first of all, I was a marketer of the thing. I was not a doer of the thing. And secondly, relying on glossy, oversized postcards and slick images of females working out wasn't going to cut it. And I needed to leverage the people who were using my services, because that's my future demographic. And so that's really where it was more of a process of learning to leverage those stories.
Okay, now how did you find Eric back then? Because it was, like you said, it was still new. A lot of people really weren't doing anything with the marketing side of things, for the fitness business, or as a consulting. So how did you find him?
Yeah, he was, small at the time. He was doing it part-time, and I think it's a great story to tell, because I found him by him practicing what he was telling us to do. And it was just a little tiny advertorial in I think it was a URSA, but one of the industry publications. And it was just, you see them all the time now. You didn't see them much back in, this was 2002, saying, you want more training clients, call this 800 number. And so I called the 800 number, free recorded message. Probably got that from Joe Polish. But I called the 800 number. There was a free recorded message, and it basically 3 minutes or so talking about this free report. So the free recorded message was a lead gen, and so I said at the end, yeah, I want the free report. My name is, my address is. He sent me the free report, and I called him up and said, I've been looking for some options, and we struck a deal on a letter campaign, and that really just got my wheels turning and had me searching outside the normal ad agency image type stuff, which is very prevalent and still is prevalent with, in the fitness industry.
Mm-hmm. Now that was all within, like, you'd found that within the first 6 months before you opened the second location?
That was after the second location, so it was probably a year after we opened.
Okay, so in that first location, when did you realize that you were doing well enough that you had enough money and enough confidence that you could open up a second location?
That was the plan from the beginning.
Really?
And I'll never forget Rick Sikorsky, who was the original founder of Fitness Together, since sold the company. We did a site selection, and we didn't just look for one, we looked for multiple. I was shaking in my boots. I was 23 years old. Yeah. Opening one was almost beyond my paradigm. I'll never forget him putting a map of Birmingham out on the table. He said, all right, boys, you're going to open the first one here. 6 months later, you're going to open the second one here. 6 months later. So, it's like a good trainer. He painted the basically the program for us and outlined the steps. we just executed and followed. And we were scared as heck. We signed the lease on the second one right before 9/11.
Oh boy.
And I'll never forget, 9/11 happened. I was in my first facility. People weren't coming in. The phone wasn't ringing. The whole nation was, in shock. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be a rapid demise from 2 locations to none. But obviously, we made it through. But yeah, it was scary. But it was because we had a plan from the beginning.
How many did you plan on opening from the beginning?
Originally 4,
Okay.
and ended up doing 6. Bought my partner out in 2004 and went on to open 2 more, so I had 6.
Okay. And I don't know if you know this, but do you know, like, how many clients would you need in one location before you'd be like, all right, I have enough to actually go and open another one, like feel comfortable to do that?
Yeah, we had a pro forma, and we were, as long as we were on pace, our plan was to have 65 on the one-on-one side before we opened the next store.
Okay.
And I had a partner in the beginning because he'd stay at the first location. I went to the second location.
Okay. Now, were you actively, like, let's say you were planning on opening another location, were you actively planning on trying to get clients to the new location as well as the old location at the same time?
Yeah, once we knew where we were going, yeah, we'd start some pre-marketing stuff and, start trying to, shifting my time over there, start networking and stuff.
Okay, and so you start rolling, you've got 2, 3 of these things open. Obviously, Eric Ruth had helped you with some direct response, direct mail type of pieces. What else besides that and referrals and word of mouth were you doing to really start bringing people into the new locations when you opened them?
A lot of joint ventures, a lot of strategic partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of just networking and really trying to grow my name in the area to be more than just another trainer, but to be looked at as the expert in the area. So started getting into things like press releases and getting on radio shows, and had an incredible hook pretty early on, 2003, personal fitness professional, named Aaron and I the personal trainers of the year,
Mm-hmm.
which means nothing, right, to anybody, but I came back and that was my hook for all my press releases. And so it got picked up. I was on every television station. I was on every radio show. I was in almost every publication in Birmingham because I had a great hook. And that's what you need with a press release, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that really taught me the power of generating publicity instead of paying for publicity. So really got into that side of it, as well as a lot of the external marketing, and took the whole direct mail 3-step letter series to a whole new level, and got a mailing house involved and really automated it and systematized it to where it was a huge winner for me.
Okay, I actually haven't covered that in any of the interviews. I want to dive into that a little bit, starting out in terms of direct mail. Let's do this. Let's start off. What's the first thing someone shouldn't do when they're looking to get into direct mail in a series?
Well, I guess the first thing shouldn't do would be start with a bad list, because everything's about the list initially. And the list, you need to take into account proximity to your store. Look at your current clientele. How far are they traveling? You'll probably find it's within 5 to 6 miles of your facility. So you probably don't want to buy a list much broader than that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look at the demographic profile of who you're trying to attract. Then you want to look at heads of households. Do you want to be mailing to women? Do you want to be mailing to men? Do you want to mail to both? I mean, all those things matter when you go into the list buy, and the list is kind of the starting point of sending out your message.
How do you know who to choose or pick, like a company or something, to buy the lists from?
Most brokers are very similar in the type of list that they're manufacturing. I've used a lot, and Info USA is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I've just recently got into some new technology that actually breaks down not only demographics but psychographics, and so I now have a company that will match my exact customer profile to the mailing list. So there's a bunch of different out there, but it just depends on how much money you want to spend getting that list.
Okay, what would you say if someone's just starting out and they don't have a ton of money? What would you say be a good amount to invest into it to get themselves started?
Depends on your campaign and how much you're going to spend on your campaign.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I'm in the middle of a campaign right now where I used 3D grabbers to make sure that the mail gets opened. In fact, I'll show them to you if you want to.
Yeah. I love this. Yeah.
Grab it in just a second. But it's a much higher cost but it becomes A pile mail. So if you can visualize sorting your mail over the trash can, you got your A, B, and your C. Your C's the junk, gets thrown away. Your B's bills, unfortunately, you got to open them. But the A pile's like a letter from grandma, or the postcard with handwritten live stamp that you don't know what it is. It goes in A, you're going to open it. So the goal with this current campaign we're using is to be A pile mail, but it has a much higher price per piece. So I'm not going to mail as many, especially in the testing phase. So on the buying the list, I only bought a list of about 3,000. Now, if I was doing just a postcard, maybe a 40-cent postcard, I'd probably do a minimum of a 5,000 list buy, if that makes sense. So it's really driven by what you're going to be sending and what your marketing budget is. So just to make sure this campaign gets open, the first letter is going out in a bank bag. So it's literally a bank bag, and it is the envelope. So it has their name, the letters inside the bank bag. Bank bag's going to get open. Second letter goes out in a bottle, message in a bottle.
Nice.
They literally twist it off, and the letter will be in the bottle. And the third go out in a trash can, and will literally be wadded up inside. Hey, you didn't respond to my first two offers, so I went ahead and threw this away for you. So, you have to cut through the noise these days because people are so inundated with messages. Jury's still out on that campaign. We're just kicking it off, but it should be interesting.
Have you tried anything where you're using the 3D mail pieces like that in previous campaigns?
This is my first time with 3D. I was introduced to them at the Dan Kennedy Super Conference, so jury's out. I'll let you know.
All right, well, I'll tell you, it worked for me because the the bank bag, I still have one from that I got in the mail from. I was on somebody's list a few years ago. I know who the guy is. We've done things together, so it worked for me. It was very interesting because I remember getting it, and I'm like, what is this? So it'll be very interesting to see what the response is on that. For people who aren't as advanced or don't have the money yet to spend on that, when it comes to designing direct mail, what would maybe some things that you could do so that people aren't throwing it out, that the mail doesn't end up in that B or C pile, it ends up in the A pile?
Yeah, some simple things you can do. If you've got time in the beginning, and I've certainly done it on multiple locations, it's not fun, but if you'll hand address them or recruit your kids or your wife or even a $8 an hour high school kid to hand address them, that dramatically increases the opening rate. If we use a live stamp instead of metered mail that people immediately know is junk mail, makes a huge difference. Even using a special kind of stamp. Don't just use the regular American flag. Use a commemorative stamp and hand address it. People immediately think they received a personal letter from someone. So that, just as a quick aside, you don't want to put your business name on the return address because that'll ruin the whole effect, just your return address.
Very cool. Now, when looking for a company to choose this, to buy the list from, is there anything that maybe you should watch out for when buying from a certain company, or are they all pretty much very similar?
I think they're all really similar, but the things I like to look at, and it's hard to know in the beginning, but on the back end, the NICSI rate, how many returns you get, kind of tells you how good the list was, and it should be 10% or less. And it's rare to get a list that would be worse than 10% returnables. So I haven't had any real bad experiences, but InfoUSA is a good place to start. Okay,
and you've been successful through most of the campaigns you've done?
We track meticulously, and if a campaign's less than 150%, we usually throw it out. So our goal, our litmus test, is 200% or more. And that's really just taking the average client value on initial purchase, not even factoring into lifetime value, which if you really look at lifetime value, you can spend a lot more than you think you can on external marketing.
Right.
But I try to look at, an immediate return, cash on cash return. So we've had very few losers, but it's because we study guys like Dan who are experts. And if you get, a few elements right, good headline, good emotional copy, good offer, good list, and get it opened, you're generally going to get a pretty good return.
Right. And the one thing I noticed when you were showing those 3D items that you're going to send out, that's really good, that I never knew back in the day, and when I was trying stuff, a lot of people do, is they don't follow up. Like you had the bank bag, they'll mail that and they'll just expect that. You've got 3 different pieces, right?
That's right. Yeah, and they're all sequential. They're 10 days apart. They drive a deadline. They all refer to each other. So it's going to be kind of hard to forget about me after getting those 3, even if they don't take action. They're going to remember us.
Do you normally do multiple pieces when you mail out, or is it just one, like you mail it, let's say, some sort of postcard or something, and then leave it at that?
Always multiple,
Always multiple.
even internal,
Interesting.
even into my internal list.
Okay, very cool. Now, let's dive back into the franchises themselves. You ended up with 6 total franchises at first, in about 3 years, right?
It's probably 4 total.
4 years.
Mm.
What happened after that?
I was operating my stores. I had bought my partner out. I was in the family practice. I had 2 kids at the time, and bought territory for the concept. So Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, started developing franchises in those areas. So I was what was called a master franchisee, and was just super, super busy, and kind of made a line down the sheet of paper and was trying to decide, do I want to keep opening and operating stores, or do I want to pursue this master franchise role? And didn't feel like I could do both. Really wanted to balance my personal life and grow my family and be there for them. And so ultimately made the decision to sell all my stores and focus on the master franchise route. Sold them, and really began full-time selling and supporting franchisees and traveling my 3 states quite a bit.
Okay, I want to know a little bit about, in terms of when it comes to selling a business. You had multiple. You had the 6 locations that you sold. What's that process like?
It's not easy. And in fact, I always refer to it as owning a business has very long tentacles that are not easy to unwind. You've got long-term leases, you've got loans, there's just a lot that goes into setting up and funding and starting a business, and getting out is not always easy. The blessing for me was the way I had built my organizations is all of my locations had either a minority partner in it that I had partnered with, or a manager who had an interest in pursuing the business as his own. So in every situation but one, I sold to a minority partner or a manager, and they bought me out and continued to operate the business, which is great for the client because there wasn't any change to the day-to-day. Mm-hmm. And it was great for the manager or the minority partner because it gave them opportunity to grow.
How long into those 6 franchises did you realize that you may want to end up selling them and go for the master franchise rights?
It was really just as I really saw the growth of the FT model, and we were a really fast-growing franchise, and saw the potential for passive income eventually as I built my organization, and really passive income was the end goal for me at the time. And it just made it an easy decision to decide to go that route versus continue to operate them. Plus, I'd done it for 5 years at that point by the time I sold them all, and I was kind of ready for the next challenge.
Okay, and how long did it take you to sell all those franchises?
About a year.
About a year?
Yep.
Okay. So you had the master franchise rights in the 3 states. Was it just opening one in each state, or were you planning out opening just multiple dozens in each state? Where did that go from there?
The goal was 80 between my 3 states, and by that time, I think I already had 15 in Alabama, mm-hmm. and I don't remember the time, 8 or so in Florida, and 2 in North Carolina. So it was my other 2 markets were really just getting started, and that's where I was putting most of my efforts. So I eventually built it to 55.
Now, how did you go about opening all those locations when you're only one person? It is a franchise. There are systems in place, but what type of involvement did you have in trying to get all of those different places up and running?
All I knew was what I had done and what had worked for me. And the way I built Alabama, just like I told you, was hiring trainers who wanted to grow, investing in them, developing them, mentoring them, and then helping them partner with investors to get stores open. I had never really marketed to potential franchisees. I grew them. And so that was the model I tried to replicate in the other states, and it worked well. Just as an example, one of our stores in Charlotte has produced 6 owners there, and there's 19 in North Carolina now. So the same model is really developing and mentoring the trainers and then giving them opportunity to own.
How did you find the trainers that you were in each of the states that you were going to end up using, knowing that you were going to turn them eventually into franchisees?
A lot of different avenues, whether it was the local colleges and using their interns in the exercise science department. But I used to tell my franchisees all the time, don't be so myopic that you're only looking for trainers. Look for great people. I mean, if you get phenomenal service at a restaurant from a guy that is in shape and looks the part, have a conversation with him, see what he's doing with his life. I've hired people that way before. I always was of the mindset, give me the right person, I can teach him to train. I think some of my biggest mistakes early on was looking for the qualified expert trainer. And when I hired that person, they kind of came in with a big ego and wanted to do their things their way and didn't really buy into the team concept that I was building. So really it was hiring the right people and then having a clear training process to developing them into exactly what you want them to be. And then also not hiring anybody who didn't want a full-time career, long-term career in the fitness industry. I didn't want part-timers. I didn't want people who were just trying to get through school. I wanted people who wanted to grow. And so that made a huge difference in who I ended up working with.
Okay, so you're based out of Alabama, and let's say you wanted to open a franchise in North Carolina, a new territory where you didn't know anybody. What would the steps be for you to get started to, find a location, to find staff, all the things that are involved with it?
Okay, so we had a pretty clear demographic profile of where we wanted to put a store, the type of household income we were looking for, the type of centers we wanted to be in. We had a pretty dialed-in model of what worked in what areas, and so we just replicated the model and would help with everything from site selection to lease negotiation to getting the franchisee in to initial marketing out of the gate, and everything was a step-by-step process.
Okay, were you doing this all by yourself, or did you have were you just managing all of these, or did you have people helping you manage everything?
I had an assistant. I had an office here in Birmingham, but I also had the corporate office in Denver, Colorado to assist me as well. I was what they said what they would consider the franchisor on the ground. I was the guy flying down there to do the site selection and talking to brokers and things like that. But I certainly have them helping with things as well.
Okay, and the things that you did to build your franchises in Alabama, I take it you did exactly with all the other locations. Did they all work with all the other locations? Were some areas worse than others with things?
We had some closures, but I would say I think I sold 58 and had 55 when I sold. So I think we had 3 closures in my 6-7 years of being a master franchisee. So good success rate.
Okay, so you had you had 58 in total with all the master franchises that you had.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. Now, you did a lot of traveling. You're talking about, you had family and everything like that. At what point was it that you realized, maybe I want to try something else and maybe not do this anymore?
Yeah, a couple things happened at one time. We had our 3rd child. I was traveling quite a bit and never thought I'd be a traveler. And yet here I found myself in hotels and airports. But more than that, all I was doing on a day-to-day basis was consulting with the franchisees on marketing and execution of the model and key performance indicators and things like that. And I really found myself disconnected from the product. And if you remember at the very beginning of the interview, I talked about working at a general membership facility, and I was just in sales. It just happened to be fitness. Well, I started getting the feeling I'm in consulting that just happens to be fitness, and I enjoyed the business side of it, but I missed the frontline action. I missed seeing lives being changed. I missed seeing people get it and grasping fitness and losing 50 pounds and changing careers and things that I kind of thought I've grown up and I've moved on and I'm this business guy now, and just realized, at the core of who I am, I'm a fitness guy. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I just, with all the travel and everything, I just kind of started to look for what's next for me, because I don't know that this is really me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And so at the same time that was going on, I had this buddy in Naples who we were roommates in college and did bodybuilding competitions together. He's a chiropractor and also owned a Fitness Together franchise in Naples, Florida. He started blowing up my phone, telling me to check out this CrossFit thing, and I was like, I looked at it, man. You can't put on muscle doing those workouts. I don't know why you're bothering me with it. He's like, trust me, man, just try one. So I was going down to Naples anyway, so I'll do a workout with you. He put me through one, and literally to this day, I've done nothing else since. Like, it just immediately clicked and resonated. I converted my garage into a CrossFit gym, invited all my friends, had about 15 friends coming over to do workouts. And there was a day when I was in my 400 square foot garage. It was 100 degrees. I just finished a workout. We were all hanging out. It's 8 a.m. And I thought, that was the best hour of my day. Like, now I got to go to work. And I had, really had a feeling like that in a long time. Work was my pleasure, and it wasn't anymore. And I thought, I want to start over. And it was about a 1.5 year process of thinking through it, praying through it, talking to my wife about it, and decided to start over and do something that I was, passionate about. I kind of fall in love with the CrossFit program and decided to open an affiliate here in Birmingham.
And what happened to everything with the master franchises, or all the franchises that you had?
I actually sold the rights back to the corporate office, so they're continuing to support them from Denver, and hadn't skipped a beat there, and made sure everything was kosher with them. And it's a completely different model. I mean, It couldn't be more different than Fitness Together. It's group, it's intense, it's not spa-like. It's kind of the antithesis of what I had done up to that point. And so we had a very amicable split and have nothing but good feelings towards them, and I think them towards me, and just really turned the page and started over. Kind of a scary stepping out and getting back on the front lines.
That's what I was going to say. I said, what did it feel like knowing that you had to get back in the trenches and start doing things from the ground up again?
It was like Stallone going back to the gym, starting his training all over again, just going back to his roots. I was a little bit nervous. I thought I might be a little bit crazy to give up everything I had built, but it was fun. I mean, I was on the floor at the beginning. I was coaching classes. I was signing up members. I was writing up, consults and contracts, and had a very clear plan for how quickly I was going to pull myself back off the floor. But I wanted to work every position in the company because this was a new model for me. And so within, I think, 4 months, I was out of the facility already and had a full-time manager and have a corporate office separate from my locations now that I'm growing the business. But I'm not allowing myself to get so far from the product. I can walk 90 seconds that way and be in the gym and work out every day with my clients because it's a group format, so I can go down there and join them for the workout. And just really, last night, 8:30 last night, was up late at one of my stores doing a goal setting workshop and interacting with the customers and just making sure that this time around as I build it, it's always something that I'm a part of and that I see the change that the service and the product is generating. It's important to me.
Okay, so you were early on, obviously, a little scared, a little nerve-wracking, but you had all the experience in opening locations and in the franchising that you knew exactly what you needed to do, where to go, and find everything, right?
That's right.
Okay, so when you were looking... Oh, go ahead.
Well, the interesting thing for me, I talked about this 1.5 year process, is as I was traveling the country, I'd stop in CrossFit gyms, and the program is excellent. I love the program, but the delivery of it was so inconsistent. And it was so interesting that, most of them were in warehouses and they were hard to find, and there was no logos and there was no feeling of a legitimate business, I guess I should say. It was just someone who loved fitness, and kind of the top-down message from corporate was build it and they will come. And that just never been my experience. They're saying marketing doesn't work. And I was kind of like, well, yeah, it does. And there's no reason this could be any different. So starting this, and Iron Tribe Fitness is the name of it, I wanted to create something different, not just another box, as most CrossFit affiliates refer to their places as, but a place that was community, that was just as focused on excellence in the business as excellence in the product, which is something I had not seen. And at the time I opened, I tried to figure out what was the biggest and fastest growing CrossFit ever, and we kept asking around, and the fastest one we'd heard of was Chris Lulane, who was actually Jack Lulane's nephew out in San Francisco. He had grown one to 150 members in 6 months. And so I set a goal from the beginning to do 200 in 6 months. and we hit it to the day.
Wow.
And so, it's just kind of having that big goal to shoot for. And now our second store is on pace to do that as well, and our third store is about to open. So, it's just kind of like laying it out all over again, and really, really focused on excellence the entire way, and not settling for average. Not just the product, and the product's excellent, but the business model itself.
Right. So you had that goal to reach 200 plus in 6 months. What did you do to get that?
Well, I had an interesting dynamic where I had a small group of guys who were already coming to my garage and were already pretty rabid. And this thing's very social and very viral, but what I did is really leverage the relationships I already had, and did some direct response mailings through those guys' sphere of influence. And that was big for us in the beginning. But one of the biggest surprises, still a year and a half in, is we've done really, really well in space ads in local publications here, predominantly geared around social proof. So taking what's worked for me. But the social proof I have with this program is jaw-dropping. People who've lost tons of weight, people who've changed their lives, people who've changed their careers. I've got so many testimonials, it's nuts. And so just running real people with real results and kind of demystifying what this whole CrossFit thing is, and this whole high intensity. I mean, it doesn't even have to be CrossFit per se. People think it's for the elite, it's for the athlete, it's for the combat guys, it's for the first responders. No, it's for my mom and your mom. And we've really done well with the middle-aged demographic, 40 to 55 years old. And when they come in, not only is the product great, but they can tolerate how it's expressed. It's not in a big warehouse with no HVAC. It's a very nice facility. Still, elements of the hardcore nature of it, bumper plates, rubber floors, pull-up bars everywhere, things like that, but not so austere, and, no nice bathrooms. Just a place I can go and be comfortable and get a great fitness experience.
One of the things, and you were talking about, you had tons of testimonials, so obviously you're doing something right. People love what you're doing. You're getting amazing results. One of the things that CrossFit does, and obviously you've expanded on that, is create a tribe-like following. What are you doing with the clients that are coming in there so that they're, giving you all these testimonials, and that it's just a huge atmosphere that they love it, and it's a place to be?
A ton of things. I mean, the whole focus is develop a community, and we're big on events. We every quarter release a full quarter full of events. We just released third quarter, which included, like I mentioned, a goal setting workshop last night. I'm doing one tomorrow night at my other facility. We've got a paleo challenge starting on Monday. We've got a program called Unbroken this month, where we're rewarding people if they will just come to as many classes as they're already committed to coming to. We'll reward them with extra classes. We have our own food line. We have our own snack line we've developed to help them with the paleo diet. I mean, you name it. Literally, I could go on forever. Just things that we've done, giving away free apparel. Christmas, I had long sleeve shirts with the I Am Tribe all over it. Just very inclusive. I'm a part of the tribe type thing. We limit our membership to 250 members per gym as a guarantee to our clients that we won't oversell our classes. We have 2 full-time coaches per class, which is a huge difference than most gyms you'll go into, especially CrossFit gyms. All my trainers are full-time, and I have 2 per class. So the coach-to-client ratio is fantastic. And really what ends up happening is they get personal training type service at group training prices. So it's just value, and people really gravitate toward it.
With those things that you're doing, are you offering them all to your current clients, or are you using those also as lead generators to bring people into the gyms when you don't have that 250-person limit?
It's interesting. I've done a lot of research on who my customers are and why they buy. And from everything I can tell, I don't think they value the community aspect of it until they get in.
Okay.
And I don't know how much selling the community is going to work for me. I still think I have to sell results and the efficacy of the program. and then the community and the support is the over delivery once they get into the tribe. Now, where that's not true is the referrals, which we are, the majority of our growth is referral based because people are experiencing the value add and the benefits of the tribe, and they're talking about it to their friends. And so referrals come in, and they seem to intrinsically understand the benefits of everything we do above and beyond just getting great fitness results. But to, like for these type mailers and the space ads and stuff, we're not so much selling community, we're selling the results of the program, and then when they get in, overwhelming them with the community.
Okay. And what type of programs are you offering in terms of, weekly, monthly, quarterly packages?
We have, as far as what they sign up for, anywhere from 3 days a week to 5 day a week programs, anywhere from 4 months to 12-month contract length. We are priced much higher than the average affiliate, where on the low end we're going to be $230, and on the high end we're going to be about $310. So our average customer is paying $260 to $270 a month, not including food, products, apparel purchases. And with those packages, they have access to go to any of our classes, and we offer, I think we're up to just over 55 a week per facility, starting at 5:45 in the morning all the way through 8:15 at night. We have female-only classes. We have some strength-only classes, some Olympic lifting classes, but the bulk of them would be our general tribe class, which is our workout of the day, which we post for our facilities here.
Okay. What's the largest class? Like, how many people can you hold for, like, your biggest class?
Our max is 20 people per class.
Okay.
We, on average, run about a 15% no-show rate. So if I have 20 signed up, typically I will have 17 that actually show up.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 coaches, 17 would be the max. I would say our average is around 14 if you take all the classes, because some are more popular than others. I mean, our 5:45 and 6:30 a.m., it's sold out every day.
Right.
But there's, the 8s and the 9:30s and things like that are a little bit slower. So I would say average across the board, average about 14 per class.
Since you're doing all this, do you, you're open, you got a beautiful facility, tons of people coming in. Do you find that people will just come in just to chat with you guys too? Is it that type of atmosphere where, they'll just come and hang out, maybe not work out or work out later?
It is, but the struggle is because our classes are scheduled back to back to back, it doesn't leave a whole lot of time to hang out.
Okay.
And so what we do is we really push the events, and the weekend events that we run just about every weekend is when the tribe comes together as a whole, and people who aren't in the same class get to meet, hang out. We'll do something like a gymnastics workshop or an Olympic lifting workshop or a big benchmark workout, and then hang out afterwards, and sometimes catering food or just hang out and talk.
Are those provided for free, or do they have to pay for those types of things on the weekends and extra classes?
It's a mix. We run about 75% free, but then we have some paid-for stuff too, like the Paleo Challenge. We've had some nutrition workshops that were paid for because we brought in subject matter experts, things like that. But the bulk of them are free. Comes with their membership, another value add.
For the first facility you have, you got the 250 people limit in 6 or 7 months. Were most of those coming off of the mailers that you were doing, or was it from referrals that people were coming in?
We were, of that initial 250, we were 76% referral.
Wow. Okay.
And so predominantly referral, and we ran some internal referral campaigns that just blew it out of the water. In fact, we just repeated one of the same campaigns at my newest location, and phenomenal month in June. As most of you guys know, watching is not normally a stellar fitness month. We had a phenomenal June on our referral rewards campaign. But, even the 24% that came from external advertising was a huge win based on what we spend versus the return on investment. So the referral was huge, but we did disprove this whole marketing doesn't work for this movement. It does, and we've proven it.
Are you offering any type of referral incentives to get people to bring in others?
Yeah, we do, and up to this point, it's been unadvertised. It's kind of been just when we got it, we'd send out a pretty nice gift card. We used to do $100 to Whole Foods and decided, why are we giving Whole Foods all this business? And we have our own food line now, so we'll do $100 off one of our food programs, and that's worked well for us. But this specific campaign we just ran, it was a huge promotion for 30 days, and I got all kinds of gifts for referrals. So it just depends on, we don't run it. It's not an evergreen. It's not running all the time, but it's specific times. It's great to run for 30 days.
So you have your own food line, as in real food, not just supplements.
That's right. Real food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, dropped off 3 mornings a week. They can choose to do anything from 1 meal a day to 3 meals a day, up to 5 days a week.
So I take that was like a joint venture or partnership with the local business?
That's right. Local caterer, already cooked organic, had to educate him on paleo, but he was a quick study and developed a whole brand around it, our own logos and private label, and it's been great because it really solves the issue of convenience and getting, you provide that service, there's no more excuses. You understand the concept, now you can get it here, and it's really helped people.
Now, is that included in one of the membership packages, or is that as a bonus that they have to purchase later?
That's additional to the membership.
Okay. Now, what was it that made you say, you know what, we should get our own food line? I mean, you were giving the gift cards and going to Whole Foods, for the referral incentives, but where did you say, let's have our own food line?
Surveys.
Okay.
Constantly ask my clients, where's your biggest struggle in the program? It continued to be nutrition. We did a video of me at Whole Foods. We did videos of my wife and I, what we feed our kids. We blogged every night. We've got over 200 recipes on our recipe blog. And I continually heard that they're still struggling with the food, and met the chef and started talking and had my ideas. And so we brought it in-house. And even a lot of people who've gotten on it and haven't stayed on it long term, they got a lot of ideas and like, oh, so I don't have to eat eggs every morning for breakfast. I can do this and I can do that. And some people get on and get off and get on and just use it whenever they're busy. And I'm on all the time because I can just walk over and go eat real quick and right back at work. So it's great for my staff too, because I can give it to them for cost, which is another benefit of working for me. Mm-hmm. And those guys eat like horses, and so to have that kind of food down there for them is really big for them.
That's it. So it's basically done for you. That's always the toughest part, is the nutrition, and you just provided that for them.
Yep.
Very nice. Now, you have a second Iron Tribe facility, right?
That's right.
Now, are you maxed out on that? Or are you getting close to it, number-wise?
We opened the last week of January, so we've been open, 5 months or so, and we are over halfway sold out. We're at 135 clients as of this morning, so it's growing real quickly.
How many do you plan on having?
250.
I'm sorry, in terms of how many facilities?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're in process of opening our third. We want 5 to 6 here in Birmingham, and then we want to replicate the model.
Okay, and like you said, you're working in them, but only, to the point that you want, and then you'll step back and let somebody else manage them, kind of like what you were doing before.
Yeah, and already I have operators and managers in both of my stores. I work out of this office, but I'm in the stores all the time. But yeah, I'm not the one actually, certainly not coaching classes, but I'm not the one even managing the stores at this point.
Okay. And you have your facility set up. Since you're basing it off the CrossFit model, there's not a lot of equipment. It's very basic. Your costs for that are very low when you're opening, right?
They're more substantial than you would think. They're very similar to, I would say, what someone's spending even with like a Fitness Together, because we do a big build out. We still spend over $30,000 in equipment. And it's a nice facility, but yes, very open floor plan, but tiled showers and nice bathrooms, and it's cool elements to it that set us apart. But so it's not as shoestring as most people do it, for sure.
Okay. And how long, when you go to plan open another facility, you've already got it in mind, but from start to finish, like once you get all the permits, everything necessary, does it take for you to actually open a facility?
Yeah, the real hiccup is finding the space.
Okay.
And once the space is found and you've signed the lease, which can still be crazy when leases start going back and forth between attorneys, But once the lease is signed and you got your contractor lined up, it's typically a 60 to 75-day process.
Okay, and you have that all planned in and processed. You've done it, Now,
That's right.
obviously, you're doing this. So there, what are your future plans with this? Like you said, you're going to open multiple. Are they all going to have that 250 person limit?
Yeah, at this point, that's the model, is really keeping it inclusive and small. I'm not a big fan of, big. I've been in 17,000, 20,000 square feet facilities, and it's just a lot of energy is lost, a lot of personal attention is lost, and I like them tight, personal, and doing more locations than trying to have one big mega center and get thousands of members. That's a flawed model, in my opinion. It's kind of the Globo model, and we really want to stay tailored to what we do and make sure that our coach to client ratio is high, and that we're an exclusive provider, and that once we hit that limit, we're sold out, and we have a waiting list, which we literally do have a waiting list in my first store. So it's a good situation to be in. Clients value it. They value the fact that they're part of something small and effective, and that they continue to get results.
Okay. And just what is the general size of the facility that you look for when you're opening them?
Yeah, typically about 3,500, with about 800 of that being office and bathrooms, and a good 2,000 plus for open floor space.
Okay. And what I always like to add is, you've done a lot of things. Your first facility in 6-7 months, you got 250 people, which is crazy. You've been doing this for a long time. What are some of the things throughout your career in the industry, some of the difficulties that you've had to overcome, things that haven't worked so well for you?
I think I shared one of them earlier, and that was hiring the wrong people.
Right.
And I used to have, after a couple years in, I had a no bodybuilder rule, because I found like bodybuilders focused on themselves and their clients. And now it's, I've just learned the best people to work with are internal. And so I love to hire someone who's been a client and has made a change in their own life, and totally buy into what you're doing. They know the difference it made in their lives, and then helping them take the necessary steps to keep on growing. But obviously in the beginning you can't do that because you don't have a big client base. So that's the number one thing I've learned, is surrounding yourself with people, the right people, who want to grow, who share your same core values, your vision, your mission, really believe in what you're trying to accomplish. The wrong staff will just sidetrack you and sabotage you every step of the way. So this time around, I put all my emphasis on building the right team. And I'm really overstaffed for what we have built currently, but when we build the other stores, it's going to make a lot of sense. So that was one thing. Another thing would be just relying on the prototypical marketing messages that everybody else does. What it's commonly referred to as marketing incest, and free this, free that, no good offers, and really spending some time and understanding the second that you become owner. And I've said this a couple of times, but you're now the marketer. You're not the trainer, and that's a big disassociation for a lot of owners, because they feel like they are the product. A lot of times their name is on the sign, and they're the ones doing all the work. But the second you switch to that ownership hat, you better become an expert at marketing, and feeding your stores and feeding your coaches becomes your role. So not getting that straight is something that took me a while to learn, but thankfully it's been a good process.
Well, it took you a while to learn, but obviously the things that you're doing are working really, really well for you. Really well. And definitely I want more people to know about what you're doing, because you're just crushing it. So where can people go to find out information about your business or what you're doing, so they can kind of model themselves after?
Yeah, irontribefitness.com is our URL. A ton of information on there. Our YouTube channel, Iron Tribe, our Twitter @Iron Tribe, our Facebook fan page on Iron Tribe. There's as much information as you want out there. And obviously my future goal is to package this whole model and sell it as a franchise, and help people like me who love CrossFit and really want to express it to the professional market, and really have a business that not only helps people and gives them great results, but generates a good return, and justifiably so. If you're going to take the risk and sign the leases and the loans and everything that comes along with it, you should make a good return on it. So that's my long-term goal, and I'm not there yet, but definitely watch, and we'll be there soon.
No, you'll definitely be there based on all the success you've had so far. So there's no doubt in that. And Forrest, I want to thank you again for the time. You definitely went through and shared some amazing information, and I wish you the best of luck with everything in the future.
All right, thanks, Eric.